Today we have a guest who is familiar in the industry, to almost every ship owner, every seafarer, and he's left his marks in the industry. He's still working here, and we're glad and honored to have Captain Warredi in our midst for live conversations today. He was a former director of shipping development at NIMASA, and he now consults on marine aviation and satellite intelligence systems. That's intimidating, Captain. I hope that I shall come and learn work after now. So today, our focus is on smart crewing, how vessel types and tonnage would affect seafarers' ratings. And I would like to give a background to it, because basically what we do on live conversations, and that's why it is virtual, is to harness or tap from the wealth of professionals in the industry wherever they are on the face of the earth. So we could have someone talking to us all the way from the UK, all the way from Pakistan, anywhere they are. There is no boundary limitations, so to speak. And our hope as a media outfit is that, because I see also that we have the media joining this conversation today. So usually what we'll do after now is to put this together and then publish, informing the larger public on what discussions has held here. And we're hoping that by God's grace today, would also be able to accomplish some of the something big, and we'll just go straight away. It's a Q&A, the interview format, the regular interview format. Captain has come in with a lot of information. He wants to share screen, give us documents. So we're in for it today. I have my biro, I have my book here. In fact, I got calls that said to me, you've landed a big fish, oh. This one is big. So I came ready, not just as a presenter, but one who also wants to learn from your wealth of knowledge. It's an honor to have you on this show today, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. To be honest, it's a pleasure being here. It's always a pleasure to share knowledge, because in the process of sharing knowledge, you will learn something. Obviously, you will say something you didn't know was incorrect, and somebody will tell you, there's something new out there that has superseded that particular situation. So it's always nice to share knowledge. Thank you so much, and thank you, everybody. At short notice, you'll all be here, and it's not been an easy one, struggling with technology, but fair enough, we're here now.
Yes.
And it's nice to see your faces. Those who I can't see their faces, hopefully you reveal your face one way or the other at some point. Thank you so much.
So we have about 30, 40 minutes to dig into all this. So I'll just start, the topic, smart crewing, how vessel types and tonnage affect seafarers rating. So the first thing that came to my mind was, could crewing be smart in the first place? So let me just begin by that. Could we crew smartly in the industry?
Well, thank you. Yes, you could. I think the whole process starts from the beginning. The most popular set of professionals, that is not to say others are not relevant, but I'm just saying popular, because when you say maritime and people have to go to sea, they think of the engineer, and then they think of the ship captain. So you go into the maritime institution, you choose a path, whether you want to go via the deck department, which is going to take you to become a ship captain, or you're going to go through the engineering department, which is going to take you to the position of chief engineer over time if you meet the requirements. Now, I will concentrate initially on these two. With smart crewing, you've also dragged something into it in terms of gross tonnage. The persons that gross tonnage affect most in terms of crewing is the deck department. That is the set of people who are going to take the path through to becoming a ship captain. I would recommend you have, if you do have a piece of paper and a pen with you, I just want you to take some notes since I'm having difficulty trying to share my screen. And you will come to appreciate why gross tonnage is so important to those who are likely to choose the path of becoming a ship captain. Now, for the engineer, most of their restriction is on the engine power. Most of their restriction is on the engine power, which is the kilowatts of the engine. But when it comes to the deck department, quite a fair bit of it is on gross tonnage. So quite a lot of people do serve on vessels with low gross tonnage. That is also not to say that those vessels are less important. But as a crewing agent, from my experience in terms of international standards and way they do things, I'll be very, very frank with you. I've not been through a crewing process here in Nigeria, but out there are a whole lot of things that people do look at when they're going to recruit somebody to work on their ships. One place they go mainly to in terms of the deck department is SOLAS Chapter 5. A lot of people overlook SOLAS Chapter 5, and they concentrate a lot on Regulation 19. So I would like you all to lay your hands on that particular document. If you type it into Google, there'll be free copies here and there. You don't have to pay for it. It's quite a very interesting one, but I'll go through it in a bit by bit. Now, Regulation 19 will tell you I think somebody is trying to share screen or do something coming up on Instagram here and there. Don't know why that is. Someone's trying to. But anyway, I'll concentrate on it. So anyway, what you would find in Regulation 19 is mainly equipment necessary for the safety of navigation. Now, Regulation 19.1, 2.1, sorry. All ships, irrespective of size, And when you're reading regulations, I want you to note two very key words. If the regulation says may, that means it is negotiable. But if it says shall, it is non-negotiable. It's a commandment. No negotiations once you see shall. So when I read out these things to you, just note. Now, for all ships, irrespective of size, you should have a properly adjusted standard magnetic compass or other means independent of any power supply to determine the ship's heading and display the reading at the main steering position. A Pelorus, never mind, some of you may not understand what I'm trying to say now, but I'll tie all of this up as we go on. Pelorus or compass bearing device or other means of correcting heading, nautical charts, nautical publications, egg disc if that is in use, and to plot monitoring positions may be accepted meeting the carriage of requirements of this paragraph. So if you have an egg disc, which is an electronic chart, you don't need to paper chart, provided that you have the means of backup to that. Backup arrangements to meet a functional egg disc, a receiver of global navigation satellite system or terrestrial radio navigation system. And if your ship is less than 150 gross tonnage, you will carry a radar reflector capable of being detected by the 9 and 3 gigahertz radar. I will explain that later. Somebody just know that, ask me a question on that. I will tell you the difference why that is. When the ship's bridge is totally enclosed and unless the administration determines otherwise, a sound reception system or other means to enable the officer in charge of the navigational watch to hear sound signals and determine their direction from inside of that enclosed space. A telephone or other means to communicate heading information to emergency steering position if provided. Now, all these things I've read for you happens to be for all ships, irrespective of size. Mind you, we are talking about solas here. I'm not saying that somebody who goes up to bring a canoe or something, this applies to the person. No, these are for ships under solas. Yeah, good. Now, the next one goes 2.2 says all ships of 150 gross tonnage and upwards and passenger ships, irrespective of size, shall, in addition, you can see now, they've gone up now, gross tonnage, we're now beginning to come into gross tonnage, 150 up, okay? In addition to what I read for all ships, must carry a spare magnetic compass interchangeable with the magnetic compass as referred to in paragraphs. That, if you have some other device, well, provided it is independent of the power supply of the ship, that's okay. A daylight signaling lamp, other means of communication by light, that's another one. Remember, as I read them in sequence, they are additions to the previous, okay? Now, if we go to 3, it goes up again. Say, all ships of 300 gross tonnage and upwards and passenger ships, irrespective of size, in addition to meeting the previous ones I've read, you must carry an echo sounder device or other electronic means to measure and display the available depth of water, a 9 gigahertz radar, or other means to determine and display the range and bearing of radar transponders, other surface craft, obstructions, buoys, shorelines, navigational marks to assist in navigation and collision avoidance. You must also carry an electronic plotting aid, other means to plot electronically the range and bearing of targets to determine collision risk. Speed and distance measuring device, yes, a properly adjusted transmitting heading device. That is as you get to the 300 gross tonnage mark. Up in the game, and a new thing came up, which said that all ships of 300 gross tonnage and upwards engaged on international voyages and cargo ships of 500 gross tonnage and upwards not engaged. So even if the 500 gross tonnage ships are operating coastal, they have to carry an AIS, which is an automatic identification system. Good. Now, if we go to the 5th paragraph on that particular regulation, it says all ships of 500 gross tonnage and upwards, irrespective of voyage, in addition to meeting the previous requirements, a gyro compass or other means to determine and display their heading by shipborne non-magnetic means, and to transmit heading information for input to the radar, AIS, and automatic tracking aid. A gyro compass heading repeater, so you must carry repeaters for that. A gyro compass bearing repeater or other means to take bearings, rudder, propeller, thrust, pitch, and operational mode indicators. You can see the equipment that is now beginning to go into the ship starts to increase with gross tonnage. Starts to increase with gross tonnage. In addition, an automatic tracking aid or other means to plot automatically the range and bearing of other targets to determine collision risk. If we go to 2.6, There's a requirement that on all ships of 500 gross tonnage and upwards, failure of one piece of equipment should not reduce the ship's ability to meet requirements 2.11, 2.1.2, and all of that. If you look at the regulation, you will see where those 2.1. So the whole idea is if a system fails, that does not mean the other system should also go and fail. They should be independent, because we are now really uploading quite a fair bit into it. Now, as we get into the 3,000 gross tonnage mark, you must also carry, in addition, a 3 gigahertz radar, where considered appropriate by the administration, a second 9 gigahertz radar or other means to determine display and range. Here I will explain, for those of you who may have seen this a couple of times. Now, the difference between a 3 gigahertz radar and a 9 gigahertz radar, and the reason why they put it that way or something, is that the 3 gigahertz radar, okay, I think the 3 gigahertz radar is on a 10 centimeter band. The wavelength is 10 centimeters. And then the 9 gigahertz is on a 3 centimeter band. So it sends out short pulses and then gets back its signal. Now, the one with the 10 centimeter band gives you a longer detection range. So, for example, if you're approaching the Nigerian coast, you could be able to pick the coast from the ship, maybe 50 miles, depends on the height of your antenna. Also, all that do help. And but the problem with that is that the picture is not very clear. It's not crisp. But the 3 gigahertz, the range is not very much, but the picture is very, very crisp. That is why if you're operating within the coast, use your use your 9 gigahertz radar, because the pulses are very, very short. Okay? So that's the difference between those particular ones. Now, if we go into 2.8, now we are talking about 10,000 gross tonnage and upwards. In addition to meeting the previous requirement, you must carry an automatic radar plotting aid or others to plot automatically the range and bearing of at least 20 targets. So you can see again, they are raising the volume as the ship's gross tonnage gets bigger. A heading or track control system. And then finally in 2.9, which goes for all ships of 50,000 gross tonnage and upwards, shall, in addition to meeting the requirements previously mentioned, a rate of turn indicator, other means to determine the display and rate of turn, and a speed and distance measuring device, other means to indicate speed and distance over the ground in the forward and at SWAT ship direction. Now, at least we are okay with the regulations. I won't bore you too much with that, but I will not drag that into the crewing.
Yes, I want. Hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, because that's where I wanted you to go to, like whose responsibility is it when it comes to smart crewing? Is it the seafarer? Is it the Maritime Administration? Or is it the ship owner?
Okay. So that you understand why I have read those regulations. Okay. Say, for example, all right, that is why when you serve on ships and you are aspiring for a job or something, you want to go get a job, and you apply to a company. And possibility is that company may have ships that are 50,000 gross tonnage. You can see the amount of equipment on that ship's navigation bridge. And maybe you own that particular ship. You want to make sure that that ship is in top peak condition and people are able to use that particular ship effectively for the job it's done and also to maintain the equipment. And I am coming from a background whereby I served on the ship with less than 150 gross tonnage. And then you find somebody else who served on a ship with similar equipment. You are the crewing agent, because most companies today, they use crewing agents. They don't just go directly to source people. So the short answer to your question is that it's in the hands of the crewing agent, but it also behooves on the person that is applying for the job to try as much as possible to make their way up in having their hands on these things that I have mentioned, so that they can better market themselves in the job area and they become very, very attractive. That's the whole idea. And the whole idea also, a part of the whole idea, if you ask me, why we are into all these instrumentation and things like that, is not only do you have the experience of using them, you would also have developed mentally a state of mind where you're going to kind of have a systematic way of scanning all these things that are loaded around you to help you get that particular information across, and then, use it effectively for your safe navigation of the ship. I'll give you a short experience I had, though I'll just deviate a little bit, but it will make you appreciate the use of instruments and whatever. When I got a job with Virgin, they sent me to Air Canada for training. And I never flew a glass cockpit before, it was daunting for me. You have buttons on top of your head, glass in front, so much information. And the first 2 weeks we were being taught how to fly this particular jet. I was very, very behind that the instructors sent a message to Virgin that they don't think I'll be able to make the course because I can't fly the airplane properly while all the instruments are on. And that next week they'll be switching off the equipment, the instruments, and I would need to fly the airplane without more than half the instruments because we're going into instrument failure. They don't think I'll cope. So Virgin responded and said, well, when that time comes, if he's not able, we'll fire him from there. But guess what? When they switched off the instruments, I was able to do better. And then they asked me, how come you're able to fly this plane better without the instruments? And I said that, look, to be honest with you, I was completely confused by the instruments. I never had the experience of using these instruments before. So there you go. So instruments can also be a good thing. They can be daunting also. They can overload you with information and create confusion, which is why as you progress in your career, it's better for you to keep moving on stages towards this. And the crewing agents, especially internationally, do look at these things. So if you apply for a job, that's why they ask you, where is your discharge book? Let's see the type of ship you served on. So from the type of ship you serve on, they can work out the experience required.
But Captain, let me come in there. But do seafarers have a choice when it comes to the kind of ships they serve on?
An initial training, you might be restricted by virtue of your certificate. If you have taken a restricted certificate, well, you will be restricted by the conditions on that particular certificate. If you have taken an unlimited or unrestricted certificate, well, yes, so the horizon is open to you. Then it will now boil down to the companies again. I remember those days we were in Singapore. Not many of us had the opportunity to work with standard companies. Some companies were very, very strict in terms of, what they wanted. Very, very strict. In fact, like the Singapore National Line back at that time, NOL, to go into NOL was like going into the moon. At one point, even PL became very, very tough. But whereas, instead of wasting your time hanging around those places, you might go and start off with some company whose requirements towards employment is lesser, and you can build your experience up. Then you come back to those standard companies. So you can see the dog leg you have to take sometimes.
Okay. Okay. Do you also think that female seafarers, don't worry, I'm a woman, so you understand when I'm a bit biased this way.
It's
So
all right.
you also think that females have restrictions in terms of the capacity of the boats they are allowed? We've had a few who complained about it, that, with the same qualifications as the male, they are restricted. They are given vessels of, let's say, 100 GT, while their colleagues are on 2,000, and they think that this somewhat would affect their placement in their career, how far they can go and how they are rated. What do you think about that?
Okay. I will not mince words, and I will not lie about it. The seafaring career, up till our time, is a male-dominated career. It's a male-dominated career. Females are just breaking into it. And I believe over the years, a lot of the perceptions about them will change as people tend to accept, what's more or less looked at as a bit strange. Now, you have to understand that with females, there are a whole lot of things that they have to consider before going to sea. Are you planning to have a family? You have to consider that. And if it's a cadetship program and a shipping company has to train you, then you have to be a little bit careful on the conditions of the bond you might have with the company, because nobody wants to train somebody and then the next thing you hear is the person is pregnant and they have to leave the ship, because change of crew is an expensive affair. It's quite expensive. In fact, companies like Iran, because of religion, they employ a lot of foreigners. They do employ a lot of foreigners, and it's expensive for that Iranian shipping line. Now, why is it expensive? They don't allow their males to stay away from the family for more than 90 days. So the crew change is very frequent. So they now have to opt to take foreigners who can stay on their ships for 12 months. It saves them a lot of money. So you can see one of the issues. So if I have to take a female off a ship simply because one, emotional issues, because the environment is it's quite harsh on a female. You go around, you don't have more than maybe one or two females on a ship, and then the rest are all males. You also have to understand that it doesn't give the males the freedom to maybe say certain things or do certain things they would have done if they were all males. I remember when I was a cadet, we shared a cabin of two. We were both males, so you don't expect me to share a cabin with a female. I remember also in recent times, I was trying to look for a ship with a female that approached me for sea time. And one of the things the company told me is that they're going to take the female, but you have to understand that we have to take the female with another female, because most of their cadet rooms are two beds. If you take just one, you have wasted one bed. If a male comes, you can't put a male and a female trainees in the same room. Those are some of the restrictions.
If we're beginning to churn out ladies who are seafarers, then we must also deliberately begin to find ways of accommodating them. It wouldn't be bad. I don't think it would be bad for us to have policies that say exactly how we want it to run. So we're saying you're coming on board, but your first 3 years, your first 5 years, we do not want you getting into the family mode. After that, you can then move on. Shouldn't we be looking at such policies, because we must accommodate them. Else, programs like the NSDP, and other scholarship programs that have been able to train seafarers who are females would actually be a waste. Don't you think so?
Well, you're very, very correct there, no doubt. In fact, what you have said, we do in aviation. Quite a lot of aviation companies, though it is not written in our regulations, it's company policy that if you become a cabin crew, you can't get pregnant in the first 5 years. It's there. Quite a lot of companies do practice that because it's expensive to train a cabin crew. And as I said, then they are just off the track, at some point. So a policy like that could come up, and no doubt about it. But maybe the introduction of females also should alter ship design, if you ask me. You understand? We shouldn't just look at the human side of things only. It should also alter ship design. Now, most of the females do fit in very well, no doubt about it, because they also want to prove that they can do better than the guys. I mean, most of the females that I have worked with in the sea career, to be honest with you, they impressed me a lot. In fact, I just got a message from one of them this morning that thank you for supporting me and everything. I said, no, actually, you supported me because I didn't expect you would go this far in the journey, but, you've done very well. So, but in the engine room department, as you well know, engineers are very muscular people. And it's not very, very easy to have somebody carrying that much weight inside the engine room. The deck department is much easier for them. But over time, I believe they will evolve and also look muscular and be able to lift as much as the engineers can lift without difficulty.
It's not a matter of being muscular. So I have a few comments I'd like to read out. So Connie says, indeed, having two females share a cabin is apt, more so now that we have a larger number of female cadets seeking sea time. Ada Okeke says, I believe there might be legal limitations to telling people not to get pregnant within a number of years. Yes, Ada, I know you're coming in from the legal perspective, but you also heard him. These are unwritten codes that you have. They don't write it down so that lawyers like you won't drag them to court. But
exactly,
you're still told, because also, as much as we want placement, I think there was a female cadet, a female engineer we once interviewed, who said she would rather advise women who want to get into seafaring to get in there very early. So you get in there, say, 18, 19, 20. By the time you're 30, you might want to go ashore, and that you won't be losing a lot. So I think we should also consider it. So I read more of the comments. I said, far back in 2005, LNG built ships for female changing room for female engineers. Kudos to LNG. We should have them one day. They should tell us how they do it.
You see why I say it should influence design.
So Constance said, Atada, unfortunately, such issues were not within the scope of maritime labor conventions and are not addressed in any national law in Nigeria. Whoa, that's interesting. Mama is here. So we have Madam Edodo here, and she says a policy that prevents women from getting pregnant is discriminatory.
Thank you very much.
Yes?
And I'll tell you, when I was in the airline, I wrote a protest against it.
Oh, so we should
not that I was intending to marry a cabin crew, but I think it was a bit discriminatory, to be honest.
She says what we need here is for companies to change and employ more women. So we must allow for a percentage of women, to get on board. So Ada replies Constance. She says general labor and constitutional laws cover seafarers too, not just the MLC. I will need to research more and I believe it's discriminatory. So here we have our women. We're all alluring now, Captain, and we're saying we need to deliberately accommodate the woman, not because of her gender, not because of the times and seasons of her life, but because of her qualification. So I will just move on and ask one more question, because I see we have about 15 minutes more to wrap up. So I would ask a question. If anyone has a question, kindly type or raise your hands. I would allow you to talk while do this. But what should be the responsibility of the Maritime Administration? Bearing in mind that we also have a situation where smart ships are coming, whether we like it or not, whether we're slow to receiving them or not. The automated ships, which a lot of people fear would remove people from employment, So what should the Maritime Administration be doing now in terms of smart crewing, given what is available in the industry at this moment?
Okay, good. Now, one of the things we have to understand is that the IMO is very, very slow in implementation of technology when it comes to ship, because quite a fair bit of third world countries participate in shipping. So they are very slow. Unlike aviation, where something happens today, the moment an accident happens, we immediately go in and find out what went wrong. And then if we need to even change the design of the whole aircraft, immediately we go in and do that. But with ships, there's a whole lot of negotiations going on. That is one of the drawbacks. However, the Maritime Administration's responsibility to its own country in the IMO is to look after its own interests.
Yeah.
That's why it's good to be a council member, so you can go in also and suggest things, based on the challenges you face. Like we here now, we are beginning to face a new challenge that the females have given to us, which is a very good one. We can also go in and say that, okay, look, we need ships to be like this in so period of time because of the incoming of a new generation of people that is going to be mixed in terms of maybe at one point you might have 60% female, 40% male on the ship. And not only that, the Maritime Administration should now look at drawing up regulations regarding conduct on ships by the different, understand what I mean?
Yes.
Very strict conduct,
Yes.
So as a captain, you can't run a ship like you run your office business here. We all know what happens in our society. By the time you close from work or something, you keep your secretary behind or something like that for further assistance. I don't know. You can't do that on a ship. But these things I'm telling you was a very big problem on a particular ship in Nigeria here, where the chief engineer and the captain fought over a woman on the ship. They all had to be removed. So you see, the influx is also giving us new challenge, which is why I said the Maritime Administration should not just sweep this under the carpet. There must be strict regulations involving bullying, sexual harassment, and discrimination. These three things the Maritime Administration should put into law that is going to boil down everybody under one platform and put everybody's conduct so that the shipping environment can continue to grow instead of going behind because of the introduction of a new challenge. A new challenge should take us forward, not backwards.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you very much. That is tasking our Maritime Administration. We hope that that would happen soon, where we would see a deliberate policy. I know the female seafarers, they've been on that. They're calling for at least 1% of all seafarers on board any vessel to be women, and absolutely no discrimination. In fact, one of them last week said that the situation is that there is no punishment for bad conduct. That as long as that,
there are no laws. There are no laws.
Yes. So as long as that happens, then you will still have what we do have now. So I wouldn't know if there is any more thing you would like to speak to. I know I had to cut you from your presentation. So I don't know if there is any more thing you would want to say before I take more comments.
I think in the interest of time, let us take more comments and questions. So if I can have to answer some before they cut us off.
All right. So would anyone want to say something? Okay, there is a banter on the chat group, and I think I should leave them alone. I think there are two lawyers who are on themselves, But anyway, talking about whether the law is narrow enough to accommodate the things that happen in the maritime industry or not. So Ada is of the opinion that it's not that there is no law in Nigeria, but what Nigeria never lacks is written laws. She says we always have written laws. And she says what we lack is the enforcement. That is my point. So she believes that when we look through the laws, even in the maritime industry or general laws, we'll find places we can lay hold on to address issues that have been raised here today, but that the poor enforcement is the problem. So Constance says, my point is that you need specific policies and laws to address these issues. The Constitution does not address every issue. That is
true.
Laws on a bunch of other things. When Ada's opinion again, when we're speaking on discrimination against women, the Constitution can do the job. All right, whatever it is, I'm sure that the persons who are to pursue this, the groups, and as in the lobbying groups like FESAN or even Amano or groups, I'm sure they are able to work with lawyers and would be able to appropriate whatever the right measures should be. So Kenneth says the utilization of hydrogen-powered cargo vessel takes off in France later this year. It's expected to be more eco-friendly, but would this require smarter approaches or skills by seafarers? That's a beautiful question.
Yeah, of course, they will. I mean, what I've said here about equipment and qualification was just the basic. You understand? That is what you need to go to. What was not mentioned inside of Regulation 19, which was mentioned elsewhere and other places, is that if you're going to go on certain specialized vessels, you understand, that now comes under what we call specialized vessels. So you must go for that particular specialized training. In fact, you can't just use even an ordinary certificate to just get on board a tanker, for example, or a gas carrier, or even a DP vessel, and then start doing the job of a DP or start doing the job without going for further training. So obviously it is going to ask for further training. And these are the areas where we should start looking ahead. And the Maritime Administration could quickly, if possible, empower the local institutions to explore trainings in those areas and have that as a potential in their hands before the things, hits us on the face. So we can have the look, because international training is expensive. Yes. So as we follow this trend, we look at these things, we start approving courses. Fortunately, the safety department in NIMASA has got a lot of experienced seafarers that are able to quickly look into these things and even draw up requirements and syllabi for these courses, no doubt about it. In fact, they've already done so in previous ones.
We should be able to preempt the future and then make our plans to be part of it.
Exactly. And one thing I want to assure people is that automation does not make people lose jobs. I mean, in the face of it, it makes you feel you're going to lose jobs. No, it doesn't. As automation grows, it creates other opportunities which we can go into.
Absolutely.
I mean, I didn't end up on ships forever. You can see slowly I went into a whole lot of other things, including satellites here and there. So there you go. It's automation that made me diversify my life also. So don't let automation scare you. You should embrace it, because once those automations come down into the ships, they will also require people that will service those automations. So we look at that particular aspect as well.
Thank you very much, Captain Warredi. It's a pleasure. It's an honor having you. I'm sure we've had a lot to draw from you. There are no more questions, and I don't want us to be cut off, suddenly. So we need to wrap it up. But we have more people still coming on. Sadly, we're rounding off. So we have looked at, what the tonnage requirements for what category of seafarers are and how it affects seafaring, and what the Maritime Administration should be doing in terms of what the Maritime Administration should be doing in terms of having females on board vessels and preempting the future of seafaring and making sure the Nigerian seafarers are part of it. So we have Captain Warredi's details. He just shared it. I would also, with his permission, share this on our Instagram page, because I know some people might want to also reach out to him. and it would be good to have you do that. Thank you so much, sir. I would also want to thank the Maritime Academy of Nigeria. They've been our sole sponsor since we began live conversations last year, and without their help, maybe we would have stopped this a long time ago. So I would like to say thank you to them also. And thank you, Captain Warredi. Thank you, everyone. It's been a good time on Zoom, and I think we should stay on Zoom.
Yeah, but I think so.
Zoom. It's actually free to hear. So thank you very much, everyone. You may now turn on your cameras so he can see your faces. He would like to see your faces. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being here.
All right. Thank you. I also want to say thank you to leaders in the industry that I saw on here. Madam Zoe, thank you very much for being part of this conversation today. All the lawyers, thank you very, very much. I saw quite a lot of them. So thank you. It's the end of live conversations. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can hear cameras clicking. I hope you'll send me those photographs.
So until next Saturday, thank you very much, everyone.
No problems. Anytime. We are always here to share and seek knowledge from you people who are current in the industry.
More people are coming in.